So hello everyone, thank you very much for joining me for this time. We continue with our uh, lesson for lesson number 5, which is title of product and market. Okay, so this is one of the very important element in strategy when we refer to marketing strategy. For example, one of the 4P in marketing mix is product, right? And it can become a very important element in competitive advantage for organization. And as the way in which an organization relate to its market is one of the most important aspect for competitive strategy. So the idea of a market as a place where buyers and sellers come together can apply to both input and output. So product markets are those in which an organizations compete for product sales. Resource market are those in which an organization compete for its resource input. So in this chapter, we discuss the key element of this system, the nature of market, and the nature and importance of product. So the way in which an organization configure itself in respect to this element is crucial to the success of business strategy. Okay. So after study of this uh, chapter, um, students should be able explain the term market and describe three ways by which a market can be defined, describe market segmentation, and explain the ways in which markets can be segmented, and describe three ways of approaching market segmentation, and explain the term product and describe Kotler's five level of product benefits. Kotler is very one of the very prominent scholars in marketing. If you have a chance to search in YouTube or Google or any search engine, you can just type the name of Kotler. It will relate a lot in marketing, and describe and criticize Copland's product typology, understand the stages in and uses of the product cycle, explain the, and last but not least, explain the concept of portfolio. Okay. So economists refer to a market as a system comprising two sides, right? The demand side comprises buyers of consumer of a product or resources, and then the supply side producers or manufacturer the same. So in strategy, we often use the term slightly differently. By market, we usually mean a group of actual or potential customer with similar needs or wants. That means the demand side. So we usually refer to the supply side as an industry. Okay. So the definition and boundaries of an organization market represent a key starting point for the formulation of strategy and provide the basis for measuring competitive performance. So the analysis and definition of markets will provide key information concerning threats and opportunities. Okay, it's again here we can see from here, demand side and supply side. Okay. So market share is a measure uh, of an organization's performance with regard to its ability to win and retain customers. So it can be measured either by volume or by value. So we can also define the boundaries of market in different ways. If different companies define a market in different ways, it is not surprising that some of their claim market share may add to more uh, or less than 100%. So the grocery market, for example, may means different things to different company. So one might include just the English market for groceries, whereas another might measure for the whole of the UK. So it is clearly important, therefore, the market share measure stated explicitly with the market boundaries clearly defined. So there are three ways in which markets are commonly defined. Definition based on product, definition based on need satisfaction or function perform, and then definitions based on customer identity. So we will briefly examine each of these in turn. So if you can see from here definition based on product. So if someone working for an organization is asked what market they are in, so in a common reply will be to describe the product that are produced or sold. So thus we would have examples such as consumer detergent or industry machinery. So if the product is white, so this type of definition is close to describing an industry. Since government economic statistics are often produced on this basis. So market defined in this way often have the advantage of ease of measurements. But the drawback of this approach is that it sometimes fail to take into account that a product may provide a range of different benefit, and the same needs might be met by different product often derived from a completely different technology. So this can lead to a failure to recognize the threats that may come from a different industry altogether. Yeah. Cinema and computer games appear to be entirely different product with a different market, but they both may compete for customer discretionary income and time if they are considered as part of leisure market. Okay, definition based on need satisfaction or function perform. The reason why that the customer or consumers purchase a good or service is to gain utility. You gain utility. Okay, the concept of utility infers that whenever a consumer make a purchase, they make a cost benefit calculation. They make a cost benefit calculation wherein they make the judgment that the benefit they will get from the product is worth more than the price paid. Okay, so this understanding enable the organization to understand its market according to customer perception. So although the need satisfaction definition can lead to a more open-minded approach to the formulation of a strategy, so its weakness can be that very broad definition can lead to a view of market that does not allow a practical approach to decision making. Okay, so cinema chain, for example, might define itself as a leisure market, but it is probably wise for cinema company also to consider threat and opportunities that might arise from television, bars, computer game, holiday, and etc. Okay. So whenever customer make a purchase decision, he or she expect to gain a benefit from the product purchase. So this benefit satisfaction is usually expressed as a need or wants. So the difference between the two is in the perception of the customer. So one customer want is another maybe they need it. Okay, and then definition based on customer identity. Okay, that's group of customer have requirement in common and differ from other group of customer. So in this way, the identity of customer can be used to define a market. See, we could, for example, consider the office consumables market a quite distinct market. Okay. So the market might be for a product as diverse as pencils, pens, envelopes, computers, these. But the market could clearly be seen as being for things that office in organization need to buy on a regular basis. So in terms of strategy formulation, the advantage of this approach is that it allows accurate targeting of the customer. So that's efficient use can be met of advertising, mail shoots, personal selling, and etc. But its main disadvantage is that although marketing economies may be met, there is a risk that a number of different technologies need to be employed so that it would be uneconomic to produce all the item required, and some or all of the products sold would have to be bought in. But in practice, actually, most business serve several market with a range of product. So they will define their market with a combination of the way listed here, and the extent that that's one or another approach is uppermost. So the advantage and disadvantage that we have already encountered will apply. So a key task for the manager or management at the strategic level is to produce a combination that gain synergistic benefit that's enable opportunities to be best chosen and exploited. Okay. And then we look at the market segmentation. This is another one of the strategy in business, particularly when we want to make a decision. So what kind of customer that we are looking for to serve, and it is impossible for us or for industry to satisfy all kind of customers. So that's why market segmentation is very important in a strategy. So market are rarely completely homogeneous, and that's a reality. Okay, so within some markets there are a group of consumers with requirements that are similar, and it is this similarity of needs and wants that distinguishes one market segment from another. Okay. So these sub-market are known as a market segmentation. Sub-market are known as market segmentation. By considering the extent to which the segment should be treated differently from others, and which ones will be chosen to serve, so organization can identify target market and gain a focus for their commercial activity. Okay, so they can gain a focus so that's the very expert in that market segment. So as you can see from this slide, you can see three broad approaches are recognized with respect to the ways that an organization can approach marketing to market segment or sub-market. So the first one that you can see undifferentiated differentiated marketing. So the first approach in relating to segmentation is called undifferentiated marketing. So this means that the organization denies that its total markets are segmented at all and relates to markets assuming that demand is homogeneous in nature. Okay. So the economies of a standardized approach to marketing outweigh any advantage of segmenting the market. Okay, so undifferentiated marketing is appropriate when the market the organization serve is genuinely homogeneous in nature. Companies such as Coca-Cola, Levi's, Jeans, McDonald employ this kind of strategy successfully because demand for their product does not vary from country to country. So organization that adopt this approach have standard products, standard packaging, advertising, and this differ little or not at all between countries. And then you can see uh, another ones. Differentiated marketing. Another one strategy for market segmentation, differentiated marketing. So companies that adopt differentiated marketing recognize a separate segment of the total market and treat each segment separately. So different segments needs not always be different in every aspect. So it could be that some standard product can be promoted differently to different segment because of certain similarities or common characteristics. So in other cases, the product will be substantially or completely different, and marketing to each segment will necessitate a distinctive approach to each one. And then you can see concentrated marketing, concentrated marketing. Okay, as an extreme form of differentiated marketing is concentrated marketing, where an organization effort is focused on a single market segment. So in return for giving up a substantial part of the market, an effort is made to specialize in just one niche. And so we may see this referred to as niche marketing. So this approach offer the advantage that organization can gain a detail and in-depth knowledge of each segment, which in turn can enable and improving match between the product and customer requirement. Okay. So segmentation base is a way of distinguishing one customer type from another. Okay. There are potentially limitless ways actually in which market can be divided into segment. And the ultimate segment would be one customer. Okay, there's only one customer. Okay, right? So in practice, a number of criteria typically we have to be met before a base for dividing market can be considered to be commercially viable. So the major criteria for establishing a market segment are market size, identifiability of the market of the segment, measurability of the segment, accessibility of the segment, behavioral, okay, buying behavioral characteristic of the segment, right? So in consumer market, okay, as distinct from industrial market, we use the ways in which people naturally differ to divide markets up. So the most commonly used people divider, according to as a follows. You can see based on demographic variables such as difference by age, stage of family life cycle, gender, income, occupation, education, race, religion, and then so based on geographic variables such as different by country, and then psychographic variable, which is exploit the lifestyle, personality, and then some behaviors variables such as attitude to brand loyalty, frequency of use, consumption, occasion, and as interest. So in consumer market segment are most commonly defined by using demographic variable. So it is self-evident that people can be divided from each other in many ways, and the more variable that are applied to a total market. So the smaller and more homogeneous the segment become. So the most commonly used demographic variable are those that are really readily identifiable. Differences such as sex, age, occupation, type of residence, stage of families, life cycle, and so on. And then we move to the ones elements, as we can see is very important in business strategy, the product, which is a product. Okay, so we can define a product as anything that is offered for sales. Hence, a product might be a physical good, okay, or service or mixture of both. So, good is tangible and is something that can be owned, and then a service is something that is done on buyer's behalf and is intangible in nature. So some product contains both a good and a service element, such as when we purchase hairdressing services from a barber or hairdresser. So the service who then also watch, blow dries, and uh, the hair using hair care product such as shampoos. That means that's a good. So the totally of the hairdressing product contain both goods and services. Okay, so our value in product strategy is a consideration of how value might be added to the product from the point of view of the customer. So to do this, it can be helpful for consider the product feature and benefits in a number of levels. Different approaches can then give different numbers of level. Yeah. So we shall consider here a five level model by Kotler. Okay, you can see from here the five Kotler five level of product. The first one is core and basic element. Core and basic element. So Kotler proposed at the most fundamental level the core benefit provided by the product. Okay. For a car, for example, this would be the ability to transport. This would be ability to transport. This and then since all the product on the market will provide this benefit, this will rarely be the level on which companies profit. Right? And then expected, argumented, and potential benefits. So the next level is the expected product. Okay, the expected product. Okay, here we have all that the customer has come to expect in a product. So in our example, a car, this might include a radio, comprehensive guarantee, and a certain level of performance. Okay, and then augmented product. Augmented product goes beyond the customer expectation to provide something extra and desirable. For example, air conditioning and onboard satellite navigation in a car. Okay, and then at the final level is the potential product. So the product level that encompass all that the product might ultimately become, but currently does not incorporate. So we skip discussion about the okay, about the limitation of Copland framework. Okay, new product idea generation says idea for new product. Idea for new product can come from many sources. Can come from many sources. So the greater range of source used, the more likely it is that a wide range and large number of new idea will be produced. Okay. So for most organization, the most important source of new idea will be the customer. Will be the customer. So obtaining idea from customer is a good way. It's a good way of ensuring that ideas are produced that will produce a product as a result of market pull. So this means that there will be a market for the product that result because they are specifically requested by the customer. So surveys and focus group can help to produce ideas. So the more straightforward approaches may give idea for improvement, but more subtle approaches may reveal new needs. And then R&D department are very useful at idea generation when a market opportunity has been identified, but for which solution has not yet been found. Okay, so in this respect, R&D can lead to competitive advantage as development in the pharmaceutical industry have proven on several occasions. For example, the introduction of anti-impotence drug like Viagra by Pfizer pharmaceutical. So in some organization, idea emerge from R&D without a trigger from marketing intelligence. Okay, this is what we call as a technological push. So it is impossible to construct a comprehensive list of sources of new product, but the followings have proved to be useful in the past. Okay, advertising agencies who sometimes have their uh, a finger on the pulse of markets requirement. Consultant and then universities and other academic as institution, competitors, suppliers, okay, employee, sometimes through employee ID scheme and distributor and an agent. Okay. So as you can see from there are some of references and further reading. Yeah? References and further reading for you to refer and to get more understanding, yeah, about this topic. Okay, so I hope that you can get something from this topic and our discussion just now. And up until now, I think that's all for for this topic. And thank you very much for your attention.